Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rebbe Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom uvracha. As we are quickly approaching the very unique Chag of Pesach, specifically Leil HaSeder, I want to share with you a Movedek idea brought down by the Maharal that can help elevate this once-a-year opportunity to boost our emunah. Kedarkeinu b'kodesh, we'll start with the following big kasha. Why is it the Rishonim are bothered by that we do not say a bracha on the mitzvah of Leil HaSeder, specifically the mitzvah of V'higadet lebincha, saying the Sippur, the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim? How can we not say a bracha on that? There are different answers, but the answer the Maharal gives, unveils Hashem, and he answers that because the main mitzvah is in the heart, ikar hadavar hu machshavas halev, and hence you do not make a bracha, because we do not make a bracha when the mitzvah is in the heart. Now, to be honest, that actual answer is a bit difficult to swallow, and that's because the whole idea of this night is not just in the heart, it's speaking out. V'higadet lebincha, like the pasuk tells us. You have to speak it out. And more than that, Pesach, in Lashon HaKodesh, Pesach, it hints to the idea that your mouth has to speak. And we know, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim elu, whoever didn't say these three words is not Yotzeh. Pesach matzah mo, it's all about speaking. And we know the idea is to say a question and answer. So what's the Maharal speaking about? What does this mean? However, the answer to that can be found in the Divrei HaChinuch. The Chinuch, when he explains to us about this mitzvah, says the following. The Chinuch in Mitzvah 21, Kaf Aleph, says that the idea over here is to remember. She Yizko Hanisim, to remember all the miracles that Kadosh Baruch Hu did to our forefathers when they left Mitzrayim. And even if you're on your own, between you and yourself, it's still a mitzvah that you have to speak it out. Chayav lotzia dvarim befiv. Why? And here's the punchline. Kedei sheis oirer libo badavar. Because it's important that your heart will be affected. Meaning, yes, of course, the nature of the mitzvah is to speak things out. But that's necessary, but not sufficient. It's all the main idea is your heart to get into it. And how does your heart get into it? So Chazal teach us the best way of doing it is through speaking. Just like we know, Achrei ha'maisim nimshachim levavo, it's also after Achrei hadibur, the leiv will be affected, and you want to arouse your leiv, but it all comes through the dibur. And that's why we know the mitzvah is that even if you're on your own, you have to ask yourself a question and answer. Ask the question, answer the answer, even if there aren't any other people there. They bring down that Rabbi Yisrael Misalant used to go around to different areas in the world to be mechazik people and say divrei musar, to me'oire the leiv, and they asked him, is it really worth for the Rav to go to all these places? So he answered, even if I only affect one person, it's worth it for me. And even if I don't affect anyone but myself, it's still worth it for me. Why? It's the same idea, because what he doesn't know, he doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course he does. But when he speaks it out, it affects him. It affects the speaker as well. But I want to share with you something b'shem Rav Aaron Kotler Zatzal, an unbelievable marsha at the end of Maseches Makos. And he brings down, based on the Midrash, which in Parshas Bo, the Piske, it says, Ani yeshena v'libi eir, which is a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Ani yeshena, it's talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says, how do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is referenced to the heart of Klal Yisrael? And he brings another pasuk, Tzur levavi v'chelki Elokim. And we have to understand, what does this mean? The Marsha is coming to answer, what does this mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu represents the heart of Klal Yisrael? And the Marsha says a beautiful idea. And he says that we know that we have 248 mitzvos aseh, positive commandments, and they are parallel to the 248 parts of the body. Remach ivarim. And he goes on to say that the mitzvah of emunah, of believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is represented by the commandment, Anochi Hashem, I am HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is the parallel to the part of our body, which is the heart. And just like the heart gives sustenance, chayus, to all the other parts of the body, so too this mitzvah of emunah gives life and chayus and sustenance to all the other mitzvos. And that is represented by the idea and hinted by the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the hearts of Klal Yisrael. Because believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more you believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more you have zest, the more you're connected to all the mitzvahs. And that is what it's all about. And that's why the Maharal brings it here, because at the end of Maseches Makos, we know that Habakkuk came and summarized all the mitzvahs with one mitzvah. Tzadik be'emunah so yichyeh. A tzaddik will live based on his emunah. That is what separates between the level of yid that you are is all about your level of emunah. And that's why it is so important to learn Musar every day and whatever it takes to be mashpia in your emunah. But what does this have to do with us? It has a lot to do with us. Because Pesach is coming up and now is the time to prepare for Pesach. Leil HaSeder is a very unique night. The Ramchal says that every Chag, every holiday has its special spotlight concept, that it is the opportunity to tap into that and upgrade ourselves from that perspective. And Pesach is so critical because that is the major booster we all need. It's emunah, working on emunah. And that is passing over the torch of emunah, believing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the kids, to the next generation. And that is our opportunity to work on ourselves on the level of emunah. And that's why it's so imperative that we say it the way Chazal tell us that we should say it over with a question and answer, because that affects ourselves. It's brought down by the Ramchal as well, that we should view the life cycle of all the Chagim, the holidays, not just like a circle and then, what's the difference between this year's Pesach and last year's Pesach? It's the same thing, we're redoing it. No, it's like a spiral that moves higher up. And every year we work on ourselves and upgrade ourselves to reach a higher level of emunah. And that's what it's all about. It's the heart for all the other mitzvahs. I just heard a nice talk by Rav Landau Shlita, and he said, how do you decide if you're a Ben Torah or not? Is it by the amount you learn? No, of course it's important, but it's defined by the amount you live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to work many hours, But are you living with Hashem? Are you dressed like you're an Eved Hashem? Like you're a slave of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like someone that's an ambassador that represents the Jewish people? Are you speaking in a way that represents the Jewish people? If your heart is with Hashem, that gives the lift to all the mitzvahs. That gives you the identity that you're close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is what life is all about. And that's why Pesach is so imperative, that we work on this concept. How do we do this? So there's many chazals, which we won't go into all the details right now, but the idea is first working on the concrete idea that's pretty obvious. V'yadata hayom, you have to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge of the world and there's no other power, ein od milvadoi. And mimele, the ripple effect of that, which still takes a lot of work, is the hashivois elavecha. Then it'll be in your heart, rooted in your heart, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, and that is true emunah, and that's what we are working on, and we have to practice and prepare ourselves for this heilige night. By this, we answered the question, why do we not make a bracha on this very special night, on the mitzvah V'yigadah lebincha? Because it's a mitzvah in the heart. How do we affect our hearts? By speaking it out, by saying a question and answer. And that's why there's a lot of emphasis on speaking in this night. Yeh ratzon that we'll be able to root ourselves with this idea of emunah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, and live our lives with that rooted in our hearts as well. Have a good Shabbos and a heilige Chag Pesach.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.